very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. You're one of quite a number of persons who stuck out their neck to advocate and in fact appeal to the president to confirm Justice Paul Baffoe-Bonnie as the substantive Chief Justice after having acted since April till now. What exactly informed that conviction that you have? Because now he's been nominated for that position as substantive Chief Justice. Okay.
A number of reasons. One, you look at the seniority. You see that one of the issues, even though it's not part of the petitions, one of the issues with the appointment of Justice Tokonu was that she had a lot of seniors, you see, ahead of her, the Supreme Court. And all of these were bypassed and she was appointed. Like, is that Joseph in the Bible, right? She was down in terms of seniority. Like the way Joseph was very young, yes, but yet Joseph was anointed, right? So this one, you could see that that appointment per se wasn't a problem, but subsequently, in relationships on the bench there, you could see there were cracks. You can ask Professor Kweku Asari, he's written about it. You can see there were cracks in terms of, when seniors are around, they've been bypassed and the position is given to a junior person. There's a way you have to manage the seniors. That management wasn't forthcoming. Right. Now, so I'm hoping that with Baffoe-Bonnie being the senior most, at least he's done more years on the Supreme Court bench, so that experience will reflect on how he would manage his colleagues. Yes, though he's Chief Justice, but the other justices are also Supreme Court justices. So we'll hope that like the management will be better. Yes, that's one of the key things. Then number two, you see that Justice Baffoe-Bonnie is a Kufuor appointee. That's to say he was appointed to the Supreme Court by President Kufuor, right? Yes, but if you look at his CV, it was President Rawlings who appointed him to the High Court in the year 2000 or so. Yes, and then President Kufuor took him to the Court of Appeal in 2006. And then in 2008, about a year and a half, then President Kufuor further took him to the Supreme Court. So the point is that when you are analyzing, you would think that because he was appointed by President Kufuor, then he subscribes to the ideologies and the philosophies of the MPP. That's how on paper it's supposed to look like. But now that circumstances have brought us to this level and President Mahama has appointed Baffoe-Bonnie, it's a huge leap in our march for, people, independent persons to be appointed to very high public offices. You see, I say independent because, as I said, from Baffoe-Bonnie's appointment by President Kufuor to the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, you can't totally eliminate an argument that he subscribes to the MPP's philosophies and ideology. You can't, because look, from the way the appointments are done, the presidents don't just go around choosing very independent lawyers or judges who don't share anything in common with them. No, the more you share in common with the president, then the easier it will be for him to appoint you. And they hope that because you share the same philosophies and ideologies, if there's anything going wrong with the philosophies and ideologies that are being implemented and it comes to court, because you subscribe, it will be easier for you to understand the Attorney General than somebody who doesn't subscribe to the philosophies and ideologies of the ruling party. I mean, it's as plain as that. Okay, so for President Mahama to overlook all of this, because remember that President Mahama has an appointee on the Supreme Court bench. That's Justice Scott Puaman, right? Yet President Mahama didn't say, no. Let me go and give it to my appointee. President Mahama says, no, let it go to the senior most. It doesn't matter that he was appointed by, President Kufuor. Then also, I'm also more excited because don't forget that that's my third reason. Justice Baffoe-Bonnie has been punished and punished over and over by President Kufuor because in the election 2012 petition, Baffoe-Bonnie, even though he was a Kufuor appointee, voted for President Mahama on the critical issue of whether, without the signature of a presiding officer, the votes could be counted. I mean, that's taken into consideration, I mean, for those polling stations, etc., where the presiding officer didn't sign. And that was critical, extremely critical. On that vote, it was by 5-4. So President Mahama won it by a slim majority, 5 in favor, 4 against. And by some of the calculations, they were hoping that because Baffoe-Bonnie is a Kufuor appointee, meaning that he subscribes to the MPP ideologies and philosophies, he would vote for Akufo-Addo, but it didn't turn out that way. And so when Akufo-Addo came into office, oh yeah, he really ostracized Baffoe-Bonnie. Baffoe-Bonnie was hounded left, right, center. Baffoe-Bonnie was hounded left, right, center. They told him to resign. Get out of that office. Give me the seat. Give me the seat. Get out. Get out. You know? But somehow he survived it. And
Right.
see, today, he's on his way to become substantive Chief Justice. So these are 3 reasons that make his appointment very exciting. So at least by voting for President Mahama, even though he was a Kufuor appointee during the election 2012 petition, Baffoe-Bonnie had shown that independence of judgment, that independence that we are always clamoring for in public office. That
Right.
look, the fact that a president has appointed you to a certain office doesn't mean that you should just roll over and let him have his way. No, exercise some independence, exercise some, independence to make yourself.
In judgment, indeed. But you see, there are 3 reasons that you outlined, which underlines your conviction about the advocacy to have him confirmed or appointed as a substantive Chief Justice. It is the nomination now. It's going to go through the process, as we do know, as enshrined in Article 1441 of the 1992 Constitution. But then one of the 3 reasons that you referenced is very critical: the seniority at the bench. It's a very crucial issue for you. Even at the bar, seniority is a big deal for you, right? When it comes to matters of appointment, and even when you are referencing each other, you value the seniority at the bench and at the bar. So if that was the case, why was he, I'm talking about Justice Paul Baffoe-Bonnie, bypassed in previous instances when there was the need to appoint a Chief Justice?
Good. You see, earlier on, I made a point that usually presidents don't tend to appoint people to the Supreme Court if those persons have a very strong track record of independence of judgment. That no, I'm not doing things on party lines or for parochial reasons. Once a person is showing that he's doing it for the national interest and is not doing the bidding of the person who appointed him or her, usually he's not a good candidate for these offices because they expect a certain degree of loyalty. Even President Kufuor once said it on national television when he was swearing in some Supreme Court justices. He said, yes, we've given you these positions. You should look for our interests when cases concerning this government come before you. It was, we can pull the tape. You see him say it expressly. It's not in innuendos or, some hidden codes, etc. Very express, right? So with this kind of situation, this kind of track record, the point is very clear that for this kind of appointments, you would usually want a high degree of commonalities, a high degree of confluence that the justices and then the ruling government have a lot in common so that it will be easier to work together.
Right. But indeed, but then with the commendation that you give to the president for nominating Justice Paul Baffoe-Bonnie, his lordship, to this position of the substantive Chief Justice, you commend the president for doing that because you say this is a man who has exhibited some level of independence in thought. You commend Justice Paul Baffoe-Bonnie for that independence in thought and indeed in the previous instances that you referenced. But then again, you still are of the position that the power to appoint a Chief Justice should be taken away from the president during this period of the constitutional review. That is one issue that you want addressed. That power to appoint a Chief Justice should not remain with the president, even with these commendations that you give. Counsel?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Why is that?
Amending Article 144, Clause 1, and other parts of Article 144 of the Constitution 1992 is something that the plurality or majority of Ghanaians have agreed. You know, that debate has been going on for decades, and right now it's clear that we generally agree that that power should be taken away. H. Kwesi Prempeh, who is chairman of the Constitutional Review Committee, also agrees. You know, he helped the Kenyans to draft their current constitution, where in Kenya, no, it's not just the president's power. The vacancies are announced, people are apply. Then there's a vetting on air. Vetting is telecast live so that there's an independent panel that will score the applicants, etc. And it's done for everybody to see. So at the end of the day, the best is chosen. And then the appointment process goes on. So you see that H. Kwesi Prempeh, having helped the Kenyans to develop such a far more independent procedure, is more likely to do the same for us. Otherwise, if he doesn't have at least what he helped the Kenyans to do in his report, that would be grounds for us to reject the report, because it will be like, Massa, you did something for the Kenyans, and then when it came to Ghana, you want us to stay in this lopsided constitution, this constitution that is a huge stumbling block to our development. No. So generally, if you gauge the way we've had the debates over all these decades, we are ready to take away the power from the president.
Right on. Lawyer Martin Kpebu, appreciate you for this, and thank you. If you can kindly stay with